Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where six mates unpack 3 topics over a new drink each week. Fuck it, just go with that. We'll fix it if it's...
Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast. I'm Conrad Francis, your host today, and with me in the room we have Jacob Moffit.
Hey guys.
Travis Hato.
Hey.
JB.
What's up?
Michael Duncan.
Hello.
Magic Matt Hanham.
Present.
He said that.
Full house. Did we have? No, we didn't have a full house last week, or did we?
No,
Anyway,
first full
No,
house.
I was-
He wasn't here.
who knows? Who cares?
Welcome back.
And
Thank you.
And we're drinking a brew from Young Henry's. We're all fairly young lads here. Jacob's old man is a young fella's called Henry, so I thought it was quite relevant.
It's a natural
the natural lager. I'm not sure what an unnatural lager tastes like,
New export from.
but it's a beer.
Cheers.
It's a Friday.
Cheers.
Enjoy.
Cheers.
Clink.
Well deserved.
Salud.
Cheers.
Nice.
Moff the Prof also promised some pepperoni pizza, which he didn't deliver.
Failed.
So we have some Jerks jerky. They could sponsor this show. That's really good jerky.
Jerky. Or Jerky Brothers. They're perfect.
Some spicy souvlaki, which no one can put their hands on because it's too spicy. And some Italian.
For the week. No, it's good.
So enjoy, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I have the privilege of hosting as well as providing content. Because
The whole package, Conrad.
so I'm just going to switch everybody else's mic off and you just got me for the rest of the show.
that's every week. Fucking hell.
Your dreams just came true.
Because he wants to be proxy.
I
Proxy him in.
please, mate, put some context around that. They want to have a meeting about this show, people, and I said I'll agree with anything.
You
All right?
You don't agree
Simple.
with anything.
Ever.
That's why I'm doing something different for a change.
Unless you say
Mix
it.
it up. I like it.
Anyway, put the votes to the listeners and let them vote on my behalf.
Well, that's dangerous, Conrad.
Anyway, I started the week watching or rewatching for the 4th or 5th time Tony Robbins' I'm Not Your Guru. Just felt the need to go back and go back to
Where'd you watch it?
I watched it with a friend of mine.
Netflix?
Yeah, Netflix. And when you rewatch content or reread books and stuff, you take. I'm not sure about you guys, but I seem to take different things away from it.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to go back and
Your
go
state
through
of
things
mind
again.
is
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah.
And this time around, and I've watched it a few times, like I said, I've never picked up the point of the piece of literature that he believes changed his life or pointed him in the direction that he eventually went into, Tony, that is. And he was given some reading material by his high school teacher, which was a poem, which was referred to as a speech. So there's some conjecture as to what it was, but it was a poem called The Will to Win by Burton Braley. So
Sorry, before you go
Yeah.
into that, who is Tony Robbins?
Tony
For,
Robbins...
anyone that doesn't know?
Really? Okay, Tony Robbins. Well, he's not anyone's guru, clearly, but he is probably the penultimate in modern-day professional development, would you say?
Yeah.
And possibly the 31st Prime Minister of Australia, because we moved through
The
pretty
one we're
quickly.
going through.
He may be next.
So, yeah, I mean, that's in short synopsis. We'll probably put a YouTube link, or a link to his wiki or something to introduce him. But so just a quick synopsis. Tony Robbins, I hated him growing up. I was... What he was advertising on infomercials. with
2
his-
a.m. in the morning.
It's ridiculous. And I said, no, this guy, what's he selling? And I just hated it. And then I came across this TED Talk, which we have referred to this TED Talk a few episodes back, the one which he did on 9/11, or they called the 9/11 TED Talk, which was, I still think to this day, was one of the only TED Talks allowed to go over time.
Yeah.
Because he's telling a story. I think he planned that, but anyway. So when I watched that TED Talk was about 2012. It switched me on to the power of what he said and what he taught. And so I then went on a massive Tony Robbins consumption binge. All the literature, all the audios, just 24/7, as much as I could get into, to the point where all my guys around me, my 2 business partners, had to consume the shit I was consuming because I didn't want to leave them behind, and it was too good to not share. So I think it's something that I shared with you guys a while back. Marco's obviously taken a lot out of it over the time frame. We'll come back to that piece of literature afterwards because I think this ties in quite well. So if that's okay, Trav, we'll move on to the poem called The Will to Win by Burton Braley. And before we start talking about it, we'll cut to put the bird away, Trav. You're lucky this is a podcast. People can't see how abusive you guys are at me at most of the time.
Poor you.
So
Oppressed Conrad.
We'll cut to the audio of
Sympathy's flowing.
the poem. Hopefully we'll find something that Matt Hanham approves of, because he didn't approve of the one I shared with the guys.
It was the wrong poem.
No, the poem, you said the guy had no emotion.
No, I don't know.
Sass in this.
I just
in
was
this
a little
room
bit.
today.
There is some stuff. I don't know. I just felt we listened to someone, and I just didn't actually. I was waiting for.
Well, fuck, Michael has shared some shit in the time that wasn't great as well, mate.
Excuse me.
Actually, I fell asleep 3 times, so that is shit.
Look, I
So we'll find the best version of this.
or we might do one. I didn't feel like the speaker of that clip did it justice.
Okay,
because
so we will cut to somebody saying
We'll
this
find
poem.
one with James Earl Jones saying it. That would be good. Or Neil deGrasse Tyson. That would be good. Sorry.
Sorry, carry on.
This is out of
C-Razzle.
control.
So somehow
Okay.
you'll get what we're talking about.
Or Justin
Jose
saying it.
no way to read
Yeah.
it for us.
Actually, can we get Justin to say it and we'll record it in? And
You want to say it now, Justin?
No, I'm good. Not
do
now,
it.
but we can do a
Oh,
recording. and
Need practice.
Do we know how to do that?
Get Jose.
All right. We're going to cut out to someone saying it.
The Will to Win by Burton Braley. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it. If only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it, makes you hold all other things tawdry and cheap for it, if life seems all empty and useless without it, and all you scheme and you dream is about it, if gladly you'll sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, lose all your terror of God and man for it, if you'll simply go after the thing that you want with all your capacity, strength, and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famished and gaunt, nor sickness nor pain of body and brain can turn you away from the thing that you want. If dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, you'll get it.
We're back!
Are we?
Who farted?
That was the chair, I promise. So
All right,
spicy
gentlemen.
beef jerky.
How did,
Lift off.
apart from the big words which we had to Google and clarify, like pertinacity
And sagacity.
and sagacity, which we're very clear on now,
Wise. Sagacity. Being
and
wise.
pertinacity is sticking with something. How did that sit with you guys? I mean, this changed the path of a human being's life. How does it sit with you guys? Anything in there that resonated?
I haven't. This is the first time I've listened to it
Yep.
or read it. And
Did you feel like it spoke to you? Because that's how Tony refers
definitely.
to it.
I haven't had. I don't think long enough to really sit on it and revisit it and sort of let it sink in. It reminds me a little bit of As a Man Thinketh. It's all the same sort of like, but As a Man Thinketh, short audiobook
Yep.
story. It's repetition.
Long
of the same,
essay, they call it.
It's repetition of the same thing in each bit. You know,
Yep.
It reminds me of that. It's just about the same thing, about trying, just not stopping, going hard at something. So that's about as deep as I can go on it just now. I need to sort of, as I said, let it sink in a little bit and sit on it.
Anybody else? You've got it hanging in your room here, mate. So,
I do.
He's the guy
mate,
who's
referring to Magic Matt Hanham.
Yeah, look, I believe that I first came across this poem from watching I Am Not Your Guru, which whenever that came out, I think it was 2016, couple of years now. So I
because it was filmed in 2015.
yeah, so I looked it up, and actually I know where I was. I was over in on Niue Island, which is out in the Pacific where my wife was born, and I remember that the internet there is terrible, and I knew this was coming out. I'm Not Your Guru when I was going to be over there, and I tried to download it. And it took me I couldn't download it till I flew back to Auckland. But anyway, as a side note, I first heard him talk about this poem, and I looked it up, and it just immediately spoke to me. It sits on the wall in my office, as you mentioned, Conrad, along with If by Rudyard Kipling. And if you haven't had a look at that, I definitely would recommend.
Equally powerful a piece of literature.
Yeah, a really powerful piece, something that I've grown up with, it being on the study wall of my father's study, and something that's, I guess, modern-day Stoicism.
That was given to me by my brother on the day of his wedding as a gift.
Fantastic. That's really powerful. But the two sit next to, obviously just sits on the wall in the office, and it's a reminder. It's a reminder for me that whenever things are difficult, it's more about, to me, it's how bad do you want it.
Yeah.
And if you truly want it bad enough, it really just describes everything that you're willing to do to win, and whatever win means to you.
Because his life wasn't flash, right? His mum was an alcoholic. His dad, I think, was abusive, and then
Dad died when he was 7 years old.
But wasn't his dad abusive towards him?
Maybe.
Yes,
Maybe.
I think so. Oh, no, I think his mum definitely was.
Yeah. Both emotionally and physically.
And I think the dad was a little bit. There's a couple stories around that he shared.
It's sort of like, are you going to be a victim or not, right? Like wherever you are.
This is definitely taking ownership, and
I think you're right. I think it's more about ownership than it's about being a victim.
And well, no, I think that's where Matt was going. Whether you take as victim or you take ownership, but this is like, if you want it bad enough, you're willing to work, put in the effort. No matter what, you'll get it. Not playing victim.
Yeah.
I guess mindset. This speaks to a lot of, I guess, everything we talk about, and I guess comes back to that. If only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it. That, again, back to that strong why and that strong do. And I talked about it actually when I was in Vienna. So I just got back from Vienna, and it's kind of like, we've talked a lot of peaks and valleys previously, and it's through those valleys that if you really want it bad enough, it'll pull you through, which pretty much then it flows on to, you'll be tested with all your capacity, all your strength, because it's going to get tough. Whatever you want.
Stern pertinacity.
Sagacity. Because it's going to get hard, and it's going to get shit and uncomfortable. How bad do you want it?
It's meant to.
Yeah.
I think anything that you want that much is going to fucking test you. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day about what attracts you to a person generally is the thing that challenges you when you're in a relationship with that person. But I think that's relevant to every situation. The attraction doubles as the problem.
You kind of got that opposing force.
Yeah. And that's why these things, particularly with, business, sport, all those things, there's such a dual-edged sword, and the duality is so obvious when you look at the things that when you buy into and you have that buy-in. So I think it's really that will to win is, to me, largely just about success in general.
Well, I think it really summarizes it, because it kind of acknowledges that if you want it bad enough, you are going to have to go through poverty, neither cold, poverty, famish, gaunt, nor sickness, nor pain. It assumes here that you're going to be going through that, which is so true, because if anything worth having, anything worth having doesn't come easy, which is pretty much what this is suggesting. Kind of covers it really well.
Nor sickness nor pain of body or brain. It's true, right?
Yeah.
Everything
can turn you away from the thing that you want.
But the main thing here is the thing that you want. What is that thing?
What is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that thing that you can't sleep for, you think about all the time, you turn mad for it.
Yeah.
What is that? And I think most of us, I'm probably in the same boat, probably haven't had that feeling.
I'll play with this a little bit longer after these two guys that Travis and Jacob had to, because I want to lead into the next piece with that part.
Yeah.
Because if you're not mad about it, you can't go through the pain
You'll give
and the
up.
bullshit.
Yeah,
You'll give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the point? Yeah, you've got to want it bad enough. And if you do, it'll happen.
Oh, yeah.
I think we were talking about that yesterday.
for
Conrad,
sure,
you
yeah.
and I, that if you want anything bad enough, it's kind of that be careful what you wish for. And if you want it bad enough, it'll show up eventually at some point.
Well, we
if
are
you
all
keep
powerful
persistent.
creators,
Yeah.
right?
It may show up in a different form, but
Yeah.
it'll show up.
9 times out of 10 it'll show up in a different
But you
form.
might get close to it and see it coming and be scared by that as well and go
Yeah.
back. So you can get to different levels of it, sort of, and it becomes reality. It's sort of
Yeah.
like, shit, what have I done? What have I created? What have I started? And maybe, again, how do you get past that part, I don't
It's
know.
also not being the victim if you don't get there right away. Might take a little bit longer
Always does.
than you anticipate.
Yep.
It's not shifting blame or responsibility on anyone else other than yourself.
Excuses and
Yeah, exactly. I think that resonates with me with this a lot. I think, Justin, you hit the nail on the head there. It is a very simple form of saying, like, if you want it enough, go and get it, but also taking accountability for it too, because if you're willing to not sleep for it, if you're willing to, be neither cold, poverty, famished, or gaunt, going without food for it, if you want it enough, you're going to get it.
So these are kind of like to me. This is a long-term goal. Like it's a piece that goes against a long-term goal because you've got to go through a long period of challenges. But on a shorter-term perspective, I'm curious to hear before we jump into where you want to take this topic, Conrad, from yourself and Trav, who we know have a grand final tomorrow. SBL basketball grand final. You're playing in it's a one-game knockout, like do or die situation. What does something like this speak to you, or what does it tell you about how you'll approach tomorrow and what that means, or does it not matter at this point? But
I don't know. You just said it gave me goosebumps. Trav, how does it resonate with you for tomorrow?
The game's 90% mental, 10% physical.
100%.
That does equal 100%. Yes,
Exactly right. I know maths. But that's exactly right. I try and tell people this for years. I mean, it gets to a point in life where it's
One plus one is 10.
more about the mind than it is about the body.
Yeah. And quite often, I love the quote, hustle will beat talent, but when talent hustles, talent will win. I think I butchered that completely. But
I think you just been listening to Parsons too much, mate.
but if you grand final tomorrow. If you want it enough, then you'll find a way to win it for sure.
and I guess it
Hustle
also
beats talent when
means
talent doesn't hustle.
There you go.
there you go.
Travis is the hustler, isn't he? Or
That is my nickname,
Yep.
Mr. Hustle.
Mr. Hustle. That's how you're introduced.
Absolutely.
So in a short game, I guess that manifests in maybe at quarter time the way you had planned.
But I
You know,
think
the
this
first
is
quarter to
probably
go.
the story of each player, right?
Yeah, that's right. But I feel like that you don't know how that 40 minutes is going to flow, and that this is the mindset that you have to carry through. Like one player might have missed 5 to 7 shots that you would expect it to clean up in the first quarter, and they have their mental challenge in front of them to come back. I mean, and every player has that, has this playing on their mind and has a different
Sure.
level of belief going into the game.
And that's
Well,
the sickness
the
of the
belief-
poverty, isn't it?
Yeah.
The bits that you can see, and this will get you through that quarter time, second quarter bit when you could easily go down that valley that you're talking about. This will get you back up to the peak pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, but it also going to the game coincides with, I think we touched on it a while ago. Maybe actually it was with Marco and Jose on the Dad episode around the John Wooden quote, which is as long as you give it your all on the court, which is with all your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope and confidence, stern pertinacity.
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 I hope I never hear that word again. Hey?
Well, you got a great voice, but you need to get your elocution right, mate.
My English sucks, mate. It's terrible. Always been terrible. It's kind of that John Wooden, going onto the court, giving you your all. There's an element of not caring if you don't win tomorrow either, but desiring it enough that there doesn't actually, talk about that really in here, but it does say that even if you're dogged and grimmed and besieged and beset it, you'll get it. But it's kind of still with, as long as you give it your all and give it everything and desire it one enough, it does say you'll get it eventually.
So it's not really the goal, is it? It's the journey.
It's the journey.
It's all about that.
Yeah. It's funny enough, somebody asked me last week, which game did you feel more anxious in? Because I did post around anxiety around Game 3 against the Lakeside team we played versus Game 3 versus Rockingham. And my answer immediately was Game 3 versus Lakeside.
Okay.
Which threw them off because they thought, well, what the fuck are you talking about? And I said, well, Game 3 against Lakeside, if we didn't get past that, then we haven't really achieved as a group. Mm-hmm. Whereas Game 3 against Rocco, we'd achieved more than what we did last year, so we've moved forward.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand that because what they valued was the grand final versus the achievement of the accumulated group.
Yeah. Of the progress.
And what I said to them, I said, well, if you don't take what the universe gives you, which is that, and be grateful for that, how then could you open any other thing? Because you're always wanting.
Always want more.
Yeah. And so by receiving that, you can have a free hit every other time you play now. No pressure, no emotion. Just go out and have a crack. Because you have improved. And you have to receive that. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Have you guys sweated and fretted and planned for it this week?
I like to think about the 5 Ps. Preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Which equals pertinacity.
That's very eloquent.
Yeah.
It's been a good week. I mean, we're solid. Fuck man, we've been drilling since November.
You don't need to change anything
No.
when it comes to this sort of stuff. It's like I said, 90% mental, 10% physical. The physical side is you just want to stay in shape, stay in tune, have the touch, but not get too caught up within the hype. I'm lucky enough to have won one in 2016.
Yep.
So it's quite interesting going around again this time. Your feelings and your emotions are a little bit different. I feel like it's more like a fly on the wall sort of situation where you can appreciate the little things a little bit more and be grateful for the little things because you've already felt those really large emotions that you would at the start, like when you initially get into it and the trainings and stuff like that. It's definitely a different vibe second time around. You allow yourself to feel a lot more the deeper side of an achievement rather than just the kind of superficial outside frills.
I feel a bit more responsible for the guys that haven't been there.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to them a little bit this week. And nothing specific, but just gauging with AR. And I'm actually very happy with everyone's emotional space at the moment.
You guys would be considered the underdog in the final.
Yeah, I mean, if we weren't, that's the way we always shape our teams up. I mean,
which is based on history, which means nothing, but it's based on history. Would you prefer to be in that space?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's something that Matty Parsons and I have always.
Do you reckon there's a stronger desire there, which is the first intro of that? If you want it bad enough, go out and fight for it.
Seeing what these guys have gone through, plus the injuries that the teams withstood, and I think Game 3 that we played last week personified all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you the edge. I mean, it's part of, I guess, this poem. You kind of got to have that. You talked about the duality. You need the first component of it for the back end to execute. Because if you don't want it bad enough, you're like, we've been here. It does give you the edge, I guess. If you desire it makes you mad enough, I'm sure everyone's extremely pumped to make this. Given the journey you've been through this year too.
But notwithstanding, this is a 2-year journey, right? I mean, it started 2 years ago.
Where did you finish last year again? What was the...
Finished 8th.
We just scraped in on the final game of the season.
Yeah.
And it was what they finished 8th. This club's finished 8th for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Being knocked out in the first round.
Are there some guys
before
that are in the
they
team?
they made a 2011 grand final, but they're the most winningest club in the history of the SBL.
Interesting. Okay.
Haven't won a championship since 2004.
But it's funny, the progression of the years, win-loss for the last 5 or 6 years would be start well, win a couple of games, and then get into a big slump because, I don't know, my theory on it was we didn't want it enough. And then we go, holy crap, we're going to miss finals. We need to pull our finger out, and it's go on a 6-game winning streak to finish the season.
Yeah.
And then you go into the playoffs red hot. Like last year, we lost the second game on a buzzer beater, which would have put us into the semis. And then the third game, we lost on almost a buzzer beater again. And that was the top seeded team. So it was, I think, a very big desire sort of and want factor within the team, and that's definitely been shifted, that culture, in the last 2 years. And look at the result that we've come through to the grand final this year.
Well, you went from a 7-game losing streak this
5
season
game losing streak
to
which
12,
I've never
won 13 in a row,
yeah,
and then lost obviously just in the last few weeks, and then I reckon now you guys will be good.
That probably segues where I want to take this part to. So this I'm Not Your Guru piece and this piece of literature that we just read, we digressed a little bit onto basketball, but it's pretty applicable, I guess, when you look at the content. And further, what's furthermore interesting is when I rewatched the Tony Robbins TED Talk, what stuck out with me was how many times he referenced service.
Contribution.
Yeah. Not help, service. It was something like 11 times in the first 2 minutes. So it's an obscene type of number. And what that promoted me to start having a look at, and the rest of the TED Talk is quite interesting in itself, so feel free to go and have a look at it. But how many of us take a mental approach that we are here to serve? I'm talking about actively use the word I'm in service. Or do we use the word that we are here to help? I personally have used help a lot.
I'd be the same. I probably wouldn't associate myself with serve to date. It would definitely be to help.
Anybody else?
Yeah, definitely don't associate with serve, but it's funny that you bring it up because I finished the book that I brought up, I think, in the last few podcasts ago. The Courage to be Disliked, which is a really interesting book, and it wraps out finishing off going that it makes some pretty big, proclaims at the end of that there isn't really a meaning or a purpose to life per se. It really is defined by your own meaning, but then goes on to say that, as humans, we're just here to serve and contribute.
Yeah.
And you can serve to contribute just by existing as well, which was interesting statement too. Just the sheer fact of existing can serve and contribute to a lot of others because, we're all interconnected by individuals. And it was really interesting, and I journaled quite a bit on that while I was away traveling the last few weeks around service, and it has been showing up a lot more, so it's interesting that you bring that up. But definitely don't use that language.
Yeah, and I think this is where the other part I want to tie into. I've just shared with you guys just quickly something I came across before I came here, the servant leadership versus traditional leadership diagram, which servant leadership is all about empowerment, whereas traditional leadership is all about control.
Yep.
Where's that from?
Sorry?
Where's that from?
That's just from a clip that I've a blog that I've got.
So that's 2 triangles. The one on the left.
We'll share. We'll put it in the show notes.
But to give a bit of context as well, while we're chatting about it,
With
the servant leadership structure on the left to empower is from the bottom up. So your leader's at the bottom, and then the triangle goes. It's an upside down triangle, and then obviously the people that you're trying to lead are above you, and then the other way around is your typical leadership structure, and your triangle is the right way around. And that's your controlling leadership, and it's like your food pyramid. The leader's up the top, and then your
Subordinates.
Your grunts.
And just to define the difference as verbs, the difference between help and serve is that help is to provide assistance to someone or something, while serve is to provide a service. And so when you're serving people, you're allowing them to become what they need to become. Does that make sense?
Because you can't actually help anyone either. They can only
Not sustainably.
you can't necessarily help them. They have to help themselves.
Well, helping doesn't bring empowerment, right?
No, that's kind of what I'm trying to say. You're saying it much better, but because you can guide and I guess lead by example, but you can never make anyone do anything. So you can't necessarily help.
Yeah.
I've seen this sort of manifest a few times in that with some younger people. Basically being get given jobs, and like whether it's through family or family friends, and you give them the job, which is helping, but it's only short term, like you say. It doesn't manifest into a long term situation. The service approach might allow them to get into a more sustainable place rather than just that giving them that opportunity, because it doesn't. That help isn't actually what you're looking to do. It's a short term solution.
Yeah. So, question to you guys again, and I mean, there's no judgment here, but whereabouts do you guys see yourselves in those two styles of leadership? I know where I'd like to see myself. I know at times I do default to control, but I work my best when I look to empower people. When I talk about the role I play in this basketball team, I don't control that team. I sit as an assistant coach, and I play a conduit between the head coach and the other coaches and the playing staff.
Before you go there, we touched on duality before. Do you think there needs to be an element of both, though, in certain circumstances?
I think situationally you could be right.
Because, like even when you listen to Gary Vee, he talks about how he runs his company of a balance between democracy and a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Does there need to be that yin-yang and the duality as well, that you need to sway and step and dance between the two?
I think you do, but I think there's got to be a predominant style that people are going to trend to.
Yes, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I think the mindset of service is the key.
That's where I was trying to go with this, is that if we don't see ourselves as servants or use the word serve, then how can we actually true to label serve?
Well, you can't put yourself above, and I think that's where it comes to narcissism to a degree, putting yourself above people, thinking you're helping them by being the leader of them.
So where do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves in control, wanting to become more servant leaders, or are we just not acknowledging that we're here to serve?
Probably not enough acknowledgement, I would have thought. Although I've gone on a more service-orientated journey the last little while.
Jacob, you've got staff, team?
Yeah, I've definitely felt that, especially from the beginning, I kind of was given, almost handed a position of leadership as the leader of our business, but it's not something I grew and developed over time. I got some cash, I built out my dream, but I had never been in a position before where I'd led teams or been in a position of leadership. So it was kind of not handed to me, but it was something I kind of got myself into. So I've since then, over the last 2 to 3 years, been trying to grow into a leader and learn these things. It's not something that came naturally. It's not something that I developed over time, and therefore I've always had the title of being a leader, but I haven't necessarily felt that I've yet earned that leadership, and it's something I'm continually trying to work on as well.
Sure.
What do you see from the service point of view, though? You see yourself, if we go back to that diagram, are you in between that, or are you more on the part of the sort of being sort of supporting your crew from below as your service?
I think I'm not a very dictatorial leader, but I'm not a kind of build people up and grow. I'm kind of almost in a bit of a grey area in between, where I'm not stepping fully into either position, and that's and I'm trying to develop more and more ways to relinquish a little bit that. And it's not controlling the people, but it's controlling where they go in their future as well.
I think different situations call for different attributes.
I think to a point you're right. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, if you build your businesses and teams well enough, you tend to be able to mitigate those situations through empowerment of people.
Yep.
We identified some things at the end of last season that we need to change within the way we were trying to manage that team, and thankfully we changed those things, and they've turned the way they have turned to. And we're not talking about a ton of change. We're talking about poking and prodding, not shoving. And that's what makes a difference to win those close games. But we're not talking close games all the time. We're talking life too, right? I had a conversation in the office today with a friend, with one of the boys, Matty Mandich, and we were talking about language and how important language is in order to allow yourself to grow, and how a word here. So somebody rang me up the other day. Actually, it was you, JB. We're talking about you. I said to you, let's catch up at Fibbers for lunch. And your response to me was, where's Fibbers? And I said, why the fuck did you just Google it? And
I did.
Yeah, you did in the end. But Matty goes, well, fuck, that's normal, just asking for help. I said, yeah, but if you think about why you would do that as opposed to just taking the initiative, I said, a millimetre here is a metre there. And then I went on to say, well, I got called the other night about where's the best place to put cash? What's the best cash rate around? And I said to myself straight away, why don't you just fucking Google it? This disempowering piece that we give ourselves to default away from, as opposed to empowering ourselves when we can ask better questions.
Yeah.
That was just a conversation we had today. And again, it's not a lot, right? But not a lot here. When you put under stress and pressure here means what?
Yeah. I was going to say it comes down to your emotional state at the time and how you control your emotion in a situation. If you default to being that sort of in service or the opposite, like, how you react to something.
But then what is service? Is continually helping somebody, and again, is helping somebody serving. It's not, by that definition, right?
No, it's definitely not.
So what have we done for our kids lately? This generation's coming through. Because we've given them so many things, we've helped them, we haven't allowed them to build that resilience muscle that they're going to need when the big world starts throwing some black shit at them.
Yeah. Yeah, so being of
have
service
we served them? No, we haven't served them.
Yeah.
We've helped them, without a doubt.
Yeah. And this is what I think we talked on the podcast before about that open communication. Like if you're talking to a friend and they're upset or there's something big going on in their life, and you can see the picture what's happening, but they can't. Like you're much better to be open about it and tell them the truth, even if that may hurt them a little bit.
But it's not. And people say, "Well, shit, does that mean you have to do stuff for them?" I don't believe it is.
I think a lot of people sort of do see, that typical leader structure as the way it is when you run a business, like that top-down approach, and I think they almost think that that'd be amazing. Like if they don't have the experience of running a business, they're like, "Oh, I want that." You just get to sit around and tell everyone what to do. But it truly is the opposite. So if I looked at my approach, depending on the situation, you could easily say that I do both regularly in the approach. But like the way I view
every hour on the hour.
Well, that'd be very regular. But if I view, for example, the situation, everyone's putting effectively their livelihoods and their mortgages in your hands. Like you don't pay yourself necessarily first and only look at, do I pay my own bills? You look at everything. So your job is to make decisions, to raise issues that may come up in advance,
even if it's difficult.
Even if it's difficult, and that is your job. It's not you're not sort of empowered in this position where you get to stand around and tell everyone what to do. But on the flip side, when you're leading by example and doing things, I've very much seen it in my businesses over time and in other people's businesses where, so I love to call it like the entrepreneur, so you're the one that's going to clean the toilet if it's dirty, right? And but if you're cleaning the toilet when it's dirty, sometimes the response to that is, it's okay, he'll deal with it. So you actually do need to flip that around and make sure you're not just doing it for them in the help sense, but you can do the service, but explain why and show the principles and bring them through. And I think I think that what you said, JB, there before about the sort of duality of that, I think we aspire to always want to be in that empowerment state, but I think that part of that is turning the triangle upside down, or turning the triangle the right way up and delivering that top-down approach when it's needed and required, which isn't necessarily, always the desired way to be.
Yep.
But you could then argue, I guess, that that's still part of the empowering pyramid too. That's just part of the role and the responsibility of it. A good leader knows when to, a good bottom-up leader knows when to be stern and when to apply that, I guess. So you could argue that that's just part of the execution of being an empowering leader. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to switching to a completely different leader, I guess, where you're going there with the whole intent. Because I definitely would dance between the two and struggle in both. I guess I aspire to be the empowering or in service. And I guess part of me deciding to grow a studio or grow a company was, I guess, unconsciously to serve others, because I wanted other individuals to be able to, do what they love doing.
But we're in service everywhere, right? You're in service
true.
to your clients. You're in service to your staff and your team.
Yep.
You're in service to your partner and yourself.
To everything,
Yeah,
to life. And I guess, though, as well, from the bottom up, and we talked about this, I think, too, and there's this balance between you've got to be selfish and self, which is because you can't serve others if you aren't serving yourself.
Yeah.
You got to start there. And I loved, which was an interview that I think you shared, Conrad, Tom Bilyeu on the impact theory. There's awesome interviews there. Duran Jones, I think, And he made this statement where he every day he wakes up to try and ensure his bucket's overflowing before he can essentially serve or give.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of approach. We talk about filling your bucket, but I loved how he took a step further of ensuring that it's overflowing and then can serve by giving the overflow.
Because then you're never in need.
outwards.
You're
Yes.
never in need.
And I don't think you can be an empowering leader if you don't fill or overflow your
100%,
bucket.
exactly right. It's not sustainable.
On the track of, there's a lot of basketball talk. On that thread, how would you do that? I mean, it's probably pretty basic. That's just preparing yourself, every individual, right, on the team.
It was knowing your role
Yep.
and knowing your capacities and delivering on those things and not taking on, in my opinion. There was a big shot made in Game 3 by young Cooper Hamilton. Matty comes to me during Game 2, 2 minutes left in the game. We were down by 2 points, I think, Trav, at the time.
Matty's a coach.
Matty Parsons, the coach, and he goes, "Who do we put in?" I said, "Well, we need to score." He goes, "Cooper or Mitch?" And I said, "Cooper." And I didn't even wait for Matty to tell me anything. I said, "Coop, get in the game." And I think it got to about the 44-second mark, and we're still 2 seconds down. And Coop took a shot and made the shot. We ended up winning the game. On the way in, I said to Cooper's old man, I said, "How's your boy? I hope he's ready." And then at the end of the game, when I saw Cooper's old man, I said, "Thank God he was ready." And he started explaining to me where Coop's headspace was. I said, "You know what? Make or miss that shot's irrelevant. The fact that he took the shot was the most important thing. The outcome is irrelevant." He felt confident and comfortable enough to do that. I saw Cooper after the game. I said, "Mate, well done. Great choice to take the shot." He goes, "Conrad," he goes, "I know who I am on this team. They were always going to help off me. And when they helped off me, I was going to take the shot." And that's all you can want. That's all you can want. He clearly knew his job.
You define that as a full bucket?
100%. 100%. And he doesn't play a lot of minutes, does he, Trav?
No.
No, but he's a great talent. One of the best juniors of his age group. Doesn't play a lot of minutes, but had the confidence to take the shot in that moment in that game. And because he was overflowing with confidence, he gave the opportunity to everybody else to become full. Does that make sense? It's all these little things that happen around you that when you sit there with that openness, that you can say, "Well, fuck, I love that. I'll take that now, thanks." Because that's a bit of gold for you to pick up. And when you're in a state of service and acknowledge it, you're in a state of service, I think the gold that you guys can pick up to fuel your futures and the futures of others around you is so fucking obvious. But I honestly believe that we just got to acknowledge it. We're here to serve more than we are then just to help.
Yeah, it's super interesting in today's age as well, the word of service, because I think a lot of people think, it's the opposite, that the world exists to serve them.
The entitled. Yeah. So it is just flipping everything on its head.
And the service isn't about accolades. It's the opposite of
It's
that.
completely opposite.
It's not about what you're going to get from that service. It's just
It's
about
what you can
providing
give,
it.
yeah. It's what you can give. And when you're there to serve and to be of service, I believe that then speaks to the Gary V 5149 piece, right? You're giving more than what you're receiving. And when you give, the universe just provides.
And I guess it's being in service without expectation too, right?
Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I've got an example of one thing that I'm trying to work on internally myself, of the difference between help and service, is that an employee is your responsibility not to simply just pay them each week and give them stuff to do, but to help them become the best version of themselves, to become who they want to be.
To them.
So for me, helping a team member is finding them clients, providing them an income, like doing all these things.
But if you provide the service to them, that I'm here to serve you, how can I best serve you?
And the controlling leader in me is, I'll do all these tasks, I'll become good at marketing, I'll get them leads, I'll get them clients, because then they'll stay thirsty for the product I'm providing.
So that's a self-love component.
Whereas
self-worth component.
If I can help build them up and let them grow and let them become the best versions of themselves, I've then got to be okay with where that takes them, but also knowing that that's probably actually in the best interest for them, for me, for the business, for everyone. not to hold them back and to try and contain them to my vision as well.
Sure, but I mean, and I'll challenge you on using the word help versus serve. But if you're here to serve them, what are you serving them for? Now, you can't empower them if they themselves don't know what they want to be empowered for.
Yeah,
Yeah?
sure.
So you can't want for anybody anything they don't want for themselves.
Yeah, so it's your responsibility to find out
What that is.
what they want,
Yeah.
not what you assume they want as
Yeah.
well. And one thing I was thinking of before is that I want my team to see me as the leader of the business, not because I own the business, but because I own the vision, because I own where we're going.
Yeah.
And I think that's a powerful change, is for them to, if you weren't the one that had the majority share in the business, if you weren't the one that had the managing director in your email signature, would they still look to you as the one for direction? Would they still look to you for who to model themselves off? Would they still look to you for guidance and direction? And I'm trying to sit with that at the moment. Is do I still believe if I was a leader without title?
There's plenty of managing directors in businesses that don't have majority shares in businesses.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think that's anyone can be a leader. But I know where you're going. It was like, yeah, if you weren't the owner or the perceived boss,
Yeah.
you know, would you still, I guess, have the influence? But I guess that just comes down to leading by example, I think. But it is a tough challenge.
Leading with purpose, leading to vision. The keeper of the vision is the true leader. No matter where you sit in any hierarchical structure, whoever echoes the values of the company strongly enough, whoever echoes the values of the team or the community strongly enough, and those people that are the brave ones that do take the steps towards what that group of people are trying to achieve, they're the leaders. The issue around titles and shareholdings and all this type of stuff gets people into trouble because that's what you would call egotistical or expected.
Yeah, you feel entitled. There's
Yeah.
an entitlement to the leadership.
But there's bit, like you said, to you, the listed entities, most of those companies are led by people that don't have the majority shares.
The other thing that's kind of interesting at times is allowing, let's say, staff members, new or old, to allowing them to fail.
Yeah.
And look, I think I find myself in situations all the time, and I'm sure everyone has, where we're like, all right, that's not the approach that I would take. I'm fairly certain that I have the experience to make that decision. However, I want you to learn that lesson. I want you to learn to fish, not have the fish given to you. And you, I think people struggle to allow, because it might cost some resource and time, it might cost some money. Sometimes it might cost the client or something else. But I think true growth in the people, you are allowing them to make those mistakes, and that can be a challenge for a leader, CEO, and boss to not sort of step in quickly and early. And I think they can learn from your knowledge, but also you need to delicately walk that line to allow them to grow, and that will help you to not have to potentially make that decision next time for them, because they've learned that and they've been through that experience.
But growth is one of Tony's 6 core human needs, right? And growth sits within the band of spirituality, which he believes to be the strongest muscle within human beings, their spiritual muscle. And if you're feeding your spiritual muscle, then nothing can beat you.
It's something I've noticed recently is I've got a teammate that's been growing at quite a quick rate. He's picking up tasks that I've traditionally done. He's been taking over more and more control of a certain department that's performing really well, and it's an awesome thing. But I'm finding that that's starting to challenge my ego a little bit. It's kind of like I'm starting and I'm trying to sit with that and go, no, this is a good thing. You've helped this individual grow.
There's a duality there.
Empowered him to achieve this, and now I've got to step up internally to know that kind of cool. Where do I create the value? What's my biggest thing? But the best leaders, I think, empower others to do the work rather
100%.
But yeah, there's that little bit of ego that creeps up, being like, oh no, like they're not reliant on me, they don't need me to do this task anymore. But I'm trying to kind of squash that and go, no, this is a good thing. It's signs of progress. But
I love it when I don't have to be in the office, man.
yeah,
I know it's going to still run when I'm not there.
Yeah.
Because the fabric of the people that you've run and the thread of the business that you've built has some integrity.
yeah.
It's a tough one to let go, though.
Yeah.
To let go. Yeah.
All right, on that note, shall we wrap it up, people?
Good luck to the Hawks tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, good luck.
Go Hawks.
Luck
Go Hawks.
happens when preparation meets opportunity.
I knew you would say that.
We're prepared and we have the opportunity.
In the blog post, we'll have the result.
Ooh.
Yeah, we will. All right, thanks, guys. Over and out.
See ya.
Bye.
Ciao.
Champagne. Hi, everybody. We would really love to know how you feel about our podcast or if you've got any other topics. So please give us a review or comment on any of our social media.